Living Dead Stars, the band and the album, is essentially a culmination of music that myself and that M.Nox have been creating over the last 4 years. We've both been in a lot of different bands over the years, but we had wanted to create something a little different, a little more unique. And 2016, we didn't even know each other when M.Nox originally started this project over in London. And then in 2017, when we met in Los Angeles, when we first, went over the idea of, hey, should we start this band? Should we merge projects? It obviously was a huge risk, the idea of, starting a band with someone who's from a different part of the world than you. But our music styles, our ambitions, and more importantly, our drive to succeed and our work ethic, everything was just aligned. And when we decided to do it, within just weeks, we were already getting so much done. And so we decided, let's pull the trigger, let's reboot Living Dead Stars in Los Angeles. And we kind of wanted to take hard rock and, create this more sort of mass appeal with it. And I feel like not only we were able to create that, but surprisingly, we were able to turn it into an international touring band that's played here in the US, in the UK, and in Europe. And we were able to land an artist deal with Pavement Entertainment. So the album kind of formed its own meaning throughout the process. Originally it kind of started with the first batch of songs that I had primarily been writing, which was Redeem Ourselves, Fallen, Checkmate, Escape from Here, Hopeless. And those 5 songs were kind of just songs of anger and frustration. We're all angry and frustrated about stuff, but what's important is how you deal with it. Do you go out and, take your anger out and destroy things, or do you use it to create rather than destroy? And that's kind of what songs like Redeem and Checkmate and Escape from Here was about, your frustrations with what's going on in the world. Things you kind of really don't have control over, like things that the government's doing, war and famine and just external forces. And then Hopeless was a little bit more about, personal failure, depression, the frustrations that you deal with personally. Whereas Fallen kind of took on more of an idea of, responding to that, rising above it, and refusing to fall victim to those things. And as we kept writing the next batch of songs, which was Through the Fire, Nightmare, Killzone, Northern Star, In Pieces, those ones it kind of followed the same pattern. Once again, us identifying our angers and our frustrations, and then rising above that. And I feel like lyrically that's really personified in Through the Fire, about, coming through the fire and rising above all that opposition that you faced. And Nightmare is a little bit of a wild card. That one kind of just describes the darkness in your heart, as you could say, things inside of you that you kind of didn't realize were there, that manifest themselves in your dreams, and how they can just spill over into your life. The recording process, I gotta say, most of it was a lot of fun. Sometimes we were having a blast. We'd get up in the morning and pound coffee, and then be up late at night just working and perfecting these tracks. And then other times it was like pulling teeth and frustrating. But that's what happens when you're creating something like this. One thing we were really lucky about was being able to work with some really great people. Our engineering guy was Steve Ullman, and he's got a lot of credits under his belt. He's worked with Deftones, with Metallica, with Lemmy, with Korn, and he really helped us capture some really awesome tones. Our mixing guy, Cibrilo Rios, he's actually currently working with BTS, and he did an outstanding job with the mixing. Recordings, we did most of it at Echo Bar Studios in North Hollywood, and Bob Horn and Eric Rikers, who run the studio, they were super awesome. They made us feel right at home, helped us with anything we needed. And we also collaborated with Max Georgiev from Falling in Reverse for the song In Pieces. And so that really awesome guitar solo on there, that was him. And you know, he really added the extra fire that we needed to that song. All that was the fun part. The not so fun part was, when you're working on an album and you have to do some of the work internationally, it can get confusing because Nox was in London for a good portion of this record, and he recorded most of the vocals over there in London. And theoretically, it's, you know, fairly simple. You record, you send files over, but if you don't organize things correctly, then, you know, sometimes it gets frustrating. It's great we have that technology, but organization is key. Well, the writing process was kind of, it started off, me and Nox were kind of just working independently. I mean, I had been writing a batch of songs, he had been writing a batch of songs, and that we had kind of started that process before joining forces together in 2017. And my songs, I feel, tend to be a little angrier, a little darker. I tend to use a little bit more diminished and augmented chord harmonies. You know, try to experiment with sounds, a little bit of a, I guess, classical influence there. Nox's songs, they tend to be a little bit more like rock and roll anthems, you know, stuff you'd hear from, like, you know, Guns N' Roses or Motley Crue, just a really good, straightforward, you know, rock anthem that people, you know, like the crowd would sing along with. But I would say probably the apex of what our writing would be what we wrote for In Pieces, because that was when we actually wrote together. And you know, for weeks we had bounced ideas back and forth with each other, and then, you know, finally we had this song, In Pieces. And of course, I do need to mention as well too, good old Mike Zamora. He actually joined the band later on in the recording process, but his solos for Through the Fire, Nightmare, Kill Zone, they were definitely the icing on the cake that we needed. So hey, shout out to you, Mike. As I mentioned earlier, we worked with some really awesome people. Our head engineer was Steve Ullman, and he's worked with a lot of really great artists. He worked on Korn's album, The Nothing. He worked on Deftones' Koi no Yokin, and he just really helped us get those really beefy rock tones we needed. CD Rios, our mixing guy, did a really awesome job. And then we recorded most of it over at Echo Bar Studios in North Hollywood, and Bob Horn, Eric Rikers, they own that studio. And then, I'd say last in the recording process was our buddy Dan Atkinson. He actually did a really great job with mastering, making our tracks really thick and beefy, so thanks, Dan. And for In Pieces, we actually collaborated with Max Georgiev from Falling in Reverse. And we met up with him actually at Left Coast Label Studios that was in North Hollywood as well. And we just took the day. He wrote a really awesome guitar solo. We recorded it. And then we also shot and recorded a music video with him, and everything just turned out great. All in all, I can say we worked with the most awesome people. We got the best product, the best album that we could have asked for. And so thank you so much, everybody that worked with us.